Hi, welcome back. Week 4, video number 3. In this video, I'm going to put you to work. So we're going to work through some exercises together to really make sure that we're getting the hang of doing the in-text citations. So if you don't have a piece of paper and a pen, make sure that you pause and grab one now, and we'll work through some exercises. This is very similar to what I'm going to be asking you to do on your assignment. So it's definitely worth your time to work through this stuff to make sure that you really have a solid hang of the in-text citations. All right, so let's take a look. I'm going to ask you to imagine that you're reading an article that is written by somebody called Aubrey Graham that was published in the year 2019, and that you're on page 100. You read in the article, quote, Niagara College students have been proven to be 60% more attractive than Mohawk College students. That's true, by the way. I'm going to ask you to imagine that you're writing a paper or you're writing up an assignment, and I'm going to ask you to write a sentence direct quoting this material using the author's name. So go to your cheat chart and take a look at the direct quoting section. Take a look at single author using the author's name in the signal phrase, and write a sentence where you transition into the quotation, doing the APA in-text citations correctly. So pause the video right now and give that a try, and on the next screen, we'll take a look at an example. Okay, so now it's time to check your answer. Remember that you may have transitioned into the quotation in your own way. So you may have used a different verb than I did, and that's perfectly fine. My example is, as Graham, bracket 2019, close the bracket, notes, quote, Niagara College students have been proven to be 60% more attractive than Mohawk College students, unquote, bracket, P, period, space, 100, close the bracket, period. Again, you may have expressed it differently, but as long as you're using the author's name in your sentence and you have some type of a verb to go into that quotation, you've done just fine. And that's your first experience with doing an APA in-text citation. Let's try another. Imagine that you're reading a book written by Meghan Markle and Kate Middleton in 2020. You're on page 78 and you read, quote, in 2018, students at Niagara College were abducted by aliens at least 100 times, unquote. Now, write a sentence direct quoting this information, but not using the author's names in your sentence. So remember, you're direct quoting, you have two authors, and you're not using their name in the sentence. Find a way to transition into the quotation where you're not using the names, and make sure to do the APA in-text citations correctly. Pause the video, give it a try, and on the next screen, we'll take a look at an example. Okay, time to check your answer. And again, you may have transitioned into the quotation differently than I have, which is perfectly okay. I've said researchers claimed that, quote, in 2018, students at Niagara College were abducted by aliens at least 100 times, unquote. And then I have the big super bracket at the end. So I have Markle listed first, ampersand, Middleton, comma, space, 2020, comma, space, P, period, space, 78, close the bracket, period. Okay, make sure that what you included in your super bracket looks exactly like what you're seeing on the screen. Time to try another. Imagine that you're reading an article written by Taylor Swift, Justin Bieber, Kim Kardashian, Oprah Winfrey, Salma Hayek, and Ariana Grande. The article was published in 2016. You're on page 55 and you read, quote, the most common complaint of dental patients is anxiety when seeing the dentist. This anxiety can be extreme. Of patients surveyed, 30% complained of anxiety-induced dizziness at dental appointments, unquote. I'm going to ask you now to write a sentence where you direct quote just a part of this information and use the author's names in your sentence. So you're not including everything. You're going to go in and cherry pick and include a little bit of what you're seeing on the screen. Take a few seconds, pause the video, and work on a sentence, and then we'll check our answers on the next screen. Okay, here's how I decided to answer the question. You may have picked a different part of the quotation, and that's fine. I said, according to Swift et al., E.T. space A.L. period, bracket, 2016, close the bracket, a study has shown that, quote, 30% complained of anxiety-induced dizziness at dental appointments, unquote, bracket, P, period, space, 55, close the bracket, period. Again, you may have decided to go into your quotation a different way than I did, but what you want to be sure that you have is the Swift et al., the year of publication, and then the page number following the quotation. Now it's time to try some paraphrasing. Imagine that you're reading an article that's written by Harry Styles in 2018. On page 67, you read, quote, nursing students at Niagara College often suffer with stress-induced migraines, unquote. I'm now going to ask you to paraphrase this material. So remember with paraphrasing, what you're doing is you're taking the idea that's been expressed, but expressing it in your own words. Write a sentence where you paraphrase this material and use the author's name in your sentence. Be sure to include the appropriate APA in-text citation. Pause the video, give that a try, and we'll check our answers on the next screen. Okay, here's how I decided to answer the question. Your paraphrase may be completely different, and that's okay, because with original writing, we're all going to express things a little bit differently. I've said Styles, bracket, 2018, close the bracket, asserts that migraines are a common disorder among Niagara College nursing students. Again, what you want to watch for is that you've used the author's name in your sentence and that you have the year of publication right after the author's name. Let's try another one. Imagine that you're reading an article written by Kylie Jenner and Kanye West. They published the article in 2014. And on page 99, you read, quote, there are 22 bones in the skull. Write a sentence paraphrasing this information, but this time do not use the author's names in your sentence and include the correct in-text citation. Pause and give that a try right now, and we'll check the answer on the next screen. I've done a very basic paraphrase. I've said only the skull contains 22 bones, but I've identified where this is coming from by using a super bracket. So I have bracket, first last name Jenner, followed by the ampersand, second last name West, followed by a comma, and then the year of publication, close the bracket, period. Check your APA citation against the example. And again, remember, your paraphrase will be different than mine. Okay, let's try another one. Imagine that you're reading a book written by Ed Sheeran, Billie Eilish, Kane Brown, Luke Bryan, Travis Scott, Jason Derulo, and Katy Perry. The book was published in 2014. On page 64, you read, quote, diabetes is a disease in which your body either can't produce insulin or can't properly use the insulin it produces. Insulin is a hormone produced by your pancreas. Insulin's role is to regulate the amount of glucose, sugar, in the blood, unquote. Write a sentence where you paraphrase some of this information. So again, go in and cherry pick what you would like to focus on and write a paraphrase. You don't need to include all of the information. In your paraphrase, use the author's names in your sentence. Pause the video and give that a try, and we'll check the answer on the next screen. Okay, time to check your answer. I've again done a very basic paraphrase here. I've said the pancreas is responsible for producing insulin. Very basic, but the idea still comes from the original that I looked at. For my APA, I've opened up a super bracket at the end, and I've used the first author's last name, Sheeran, the short et al., period, comma, space, year of publication, 2014. That brings us through all of the exercises. Again, remember that the more of this you do, the easier it gets. So if you struggled a little bit, that's okay. You're just getting accustomed to the pattern. As you do more and more, this will become second nature. So you'll find that you're doing it automatically without having to think. For now, though, make sure that you're using the cheat chart and following the examples and going through. That brings us to the end of our sort of lecture portion of this week. Again, congratulations. I know it's dry material, but super necessary. And you're going to be so happy you spent the time today going through this. In our next video, we're going to go through the assignment that I'm asking you to complete.